Good morning, everyone. I welcome all the participants to the exciting world of human resource management because this is mini MBA in human resource management. So, good morning once again, and we'll start our discussion on human resource management. This word, this term, human resource management, it is made of three words: human, resource, and management. Right? As my introduction was there with you people, so you already know that I am a professor at Taxila Business School. I'm Dr. Alka Jain. And if there are any questions, you can send those questions by the end of this session around 1 o'clock in the chat box, or you can use the email ID given. So we are coming back to the discussion on human resource management. We have to answer the question, what do we mean by these three terms? Human, resource, and management. Maybe that is going to help us in understanding what is HRM. Human. We all know what human is. Human beings, you and me, living beings, men, man in human, MAN. That tells us what a human being is. Second term is resource. Because we have to understand, is this human actually a resource? Or just like that, we are saying that human is a resource. So we need to understand what is a resource. Resource is anything that has utility. Utility that I'm useful for somebody and adds value to human life. If I can add some value to the life of others, only then I am a resource. And then there is one more thing. These resources can be living and non-living both. Non-living, I have given you the list: air and water, food and plants, animals, minerals, metals, or anything else that exists in nature. Right? We are also coming from the nature itself. We are the product of this nature. Natural birth. That is the reason of being called a human, that is the reason why a human being is called a natural resource. Now, this human being, since it can add value to human life and it has utility for the organizations, that is why this is a resource. There is one more way to understand this human resource. We all are humans, right? Some of you must be staying at home. Those who are at home, how are they addressed? They are either son, daughter, maybe uncle, aunt, and you have more human beings at your home, your parents, mother and father. So they are social beings for you. They have social value for you. They become a family for you. That is their utility. And they add value to your life. So they are also a resource, but they are social resources. And when we are talking about human resource management, we are supposed to talk about economic terms, at least about management terms. So those human resources that have utility in the economic organizations, in the business organizations, and which add value to the human life of the organization, they are the resource. So this way, these social human beings, when they come to the organization, they are not called father and mother, papa or mom, or they are not called bhaiya and bhabhi, right? What are they called? They are called sir and ma'am. And this is their economic identification now in the organization. The designations given to them, manager, executives, these are the names for them. So this is their economic entity that makes them a human resource in the organization. Right? So it is clear to us now that human is a resource. Then what is management? Management is a process. This is an ongoing process, a continuous process in which we keep planning. We organize. What do we organize? The resources and activities of a business. Resources, 5 M's of an organization. They are considered to be the major resources. First M is man, human beings. Second is machine, money. Then land, raw material. When we are talking about 5 M's, they are man, money, machine. Then they are methods and materials, right? So out of these 5 N's, you have to plan for each and every N. That means for each and every resource. And you have to organize how these resources will be allocated to whom, at what time, at what place, and for what activity of a particular business activity in the organization these resources will be used. They are to be used in such a way that the specific goal of the organization is met. And that way has to be effective and efficient to the optimum level possible. This is what management is. So what is human resource management? Since we have understood the three terms, now can we combine the three terms? And after combining these three terms, we will get a definition of human resource management. Simple definition is managing the people in the organization. This is human resource management, right? But before that, we need to understand why is this human resource so unique that we have a subject called human resource management? There must be something special about this resource. There must be something very unique about this resource that has made it a subject of study for the scholars, right? This human resource is unique because we see in this figure that each and every human being is unique. If the first figure we see, this human being has a focused approach. Second figure, very calculative approach. Third person is very good in technical approaches perhaps. And this fourth one is very good in data interpretation. The fifth figure is able to take decisions spontaneously on the spot. And then someone is very good in documentation. This is how we see that in the organizations, each and every person has his or her own skills, own capabilities. And according to those capabilities and skills and qualifications, the jobs are to be allocated. And this becomes the human resource management. But right now we are trying to understand what are the unique features of this human resource. This human resource, as I told you, when you are in your family, when you are with your family members at home, you are different. But when you come to your office, you become different. Now you are an executive, you are a manager, you are a trainee. But all of you are coming from different backgrounds, and you have your own unique personalities, which are an outcome of your upbringing, perhaps. Your backgrounds are different, and so are your needs different. And you have different attitudes towards different things. And you all have different values of life. Different values of life, maybe respecting elders. You may have different level of disrespect in your own systems, in your own social systems, and the same way it is reflected in the organization system, because you as an individual are a part of the organization. And for the same purpose, maybe all these human beings have different needs, or for the same needs, they have different choices. For example, when you feel hungry, you go to a vegan restaurant in your organization, and if you are a vegetarian, and if you are a non-vegetarian, maybe you will prefer to go to a restaurant which serves both kinds of cuisines, veg as well as non-veg. Now this human, and this is not going to happen with other resources like land, machine or materials. They are same. The kind of machine, once you have purchased a machine, you just need to note down the model number. And you will come to know which machine is to be bought for your next needs. But this is not so in the case of human beings. They are different in terms of their needs, attitudes and values, right? Then these human beings are dynamic and they behave differently. This is just because of their needs, attitudes and values they behave differently? No. Their reaction to the environment around them, that also makes them behave differently. Same situation, same incident, and reaction of 2, 3 or 4 human beings in the organization may be entirely different. For example, if there is a fight, if there is a conflict, or if there is a fire in the organization building, maybe the human resources in the organization, all of them will behave differently towards this incident. In case of fire, one of them may start running away from that fire. The other may start looking for the remedies. The third may start trying to save the people around. right? So we see that the behavior towards the same incident, the same event, the same problem, the same question may be different, and that makes them so unique. A machine is not going to behave differently. If there are 10 machines in your production department, all of them are going to behave in the same manner. But this is not so in the case of human beings. These human beings, they control and utilize other non-living resources. Since human being is a living resource, so this human being, he or she has the capability to control and utilize other non-living resources. For example, if a machine is lying, a human being can come and switch it on and control its operations. If money is lying idle in the organization, a human being can decide to invest this particular money so that it becomes a resource for the organization. So these are only living beings, human beings, who control and utilize other resources. Then these human beings, they have the greatest potential to develop. What does it mean? A machine once bought, is it going to develop? Raw material once bought, is it going to develop? But a human being in your organization has the possibility of keep developing all the time. We see it happening in the organization. You join as a clerk and you retire as a manager because you had the greatest potential to develop than other resources, right? The next unique feature is that this human being himself decide what he is going to contribute to the organization, which is not so in the case of other resources. What the machine is going to contribute, human being decides. Human resource decides how much output is to be taken from this particular machine, what kind of building is to be built at this particular piece of land, right? So this human being, when it comes to human beings, they decide how much time are they going to give to the organization. For example, your office time is 9 to 5. But this is the human being who can take a decision that if office needs me after 5 also, I will stay with the office. This is a kind of flexibility that human resource has for the organization. And that makes him different from other resources. You bought a car for the organizational use. It depreciates over a period of time. We are talking about a non-living resource of the organization. But talk about a human being. A 20 or 21 year or 23 years old MBA joins the organization as a management trainee. Now this is not just about his promotions. This is about his appreciation as an asset for the organization. What happens? He came as a PG, as a postgraduate, and now he starts doing more courses as per the need of the organization's works, tasks given to him, and he starts appreciating because the skills are enhanced, because he'll be trained in the organization, the skills are enhanced. Second, he can earn more qualification in due course of time. And third, he'll gain experience over a period of time. All that appreciates his value in the corporate world, in the factor market. This is a unique feature which is not happening with the non-living resources of an organization. And this is something very interesting. HR alone can produce an output larger than input. Generally what happens? What happens in the mathematics? 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. But it is not so in the case of human resource and its management. 1 plus 1 plus 1, if it is equal to 3, this is just the whole. But the real whole can come from a human resource. The real whole means when the output is larger than all the input given. This real whole can be produced by the human resource only. This is not true for other cases, for other resources of the organization. Then HR provides utility value to each one of the physical assets. A machine is lying idle, it is of no use until and unless the human resource interacts with the machine. Interacts with the machine, that plans for the machine, when this machine is to be used in the organization, starts giving directions for that machine, where it is to be kept, when it is to be started, what is to be produced. So utility value of this machine was dependent on the activities of the human resource. And that makes this human resource so unique, because this human resource provides utility value to each one of the physical assets, be it machine, be it money, be it land, whatever, right? Then flexibility of a firm depends on people more than any other technical factors. Technical factors like land, raw material, your machine. What happens? There is less flexibility. While, as I've already told you, that people have more flexibility for the organization in terms of their own devotion towards the task, in terms of their own job satisfaction in the organization. All that makes them more enthusiastic towards the tasks assigned to them. When they become enthusiastic, their speed changes, their capabilities enhance, and so does the performance of the organization. So that makes this resource so unique. We have seen that this human resource is unique, but why is it so important to study this human resource and to care for this human resource? It is important for us because this human resource has the capability of lending competitive advantage to the organization. Now, what do we mean by this? Competitive advantage. When I am better than my rivals, when I am better than my competitors, anywhere, maybe in terms of marketing, in terms of production, in terms of my employees' job satisfaction, it can be any area of the business. But if I'm better than my competitor, then I have the competitive advantage over my competitors. Right? The term is clear. Lending competitive advantage is coming from the human resource only. And that makes the study of this human resource so important. Now, how do we get this competitive advantage? By the help of people. These are the people who offer skills, capabilities, systems, practices, and speed. Each and every person comes with a different set of skills, different capabilities, and each and every person has his or her own systems. Systems in terms of using a particular resource in the organization, system in terms of managing his or her time in the organization, practice. Different practices are there by different human beings, and different speed to achieve the same goal. Different languages that also give us a competitive advantage. Do you know how? If a salesperson from northern part of the country gets a job in the southern part of the country and he learns Kannada there or he learns Telugu there, then this language becomes an additional advantage of that particular employee. And an employee's additional advantage becomes an advantage for the organization, and it makes the organization better than the competitors. Then their bonding and behaviors, bonding with the people, what kind of relationships do they have with the people, that also brings competitive advantage to the organization. For example, when you go to a customer, how do you treat that customer? What is your behavior in the customers or your client's organization? That also offers competitive advantage. If there are two salespeople from the two different companies coming to the same client at the same time, then of course there is an automatic comparison made between the way they greet, how they present the product to the client, and how they close the deal. Right? So their behavioral skills, they also bring competitive advantage to the organizations. Then what kind of business plans do your humans make? This also brings competitive advantage to the organization. If your human resource does not make very good plans, then you will be an average organization. And if your human beings are able to produce business plans which can optimize the profits for you, then of course you will be on a competitive edge over your competitors, on an advantageous edge over your competitors. And these are the people who innovate. So this innovation also brings competitive advantage to the companies. And let me take the example of Google, as I've mentioned in the slide also. In Google, they have the 70-20-10 rule. This is the rule for innovating. And what does this rule say? 70% of your time is to be used and utilized for your own job. Whatever task has been assigned to you, you have to complete that task. 20% of time should be given to the innovation within that particular job that you are doing. Then what is this 10%? This 10% time is to be given to those innovations which you deem productive for the organization, but they may not be part of your job. This is the kind of division of innovation for the time that is available with the employees during the organizational hours, right? And this is the kind of competitive advantage Google is taking over their competitors with the help of this simple rule. In Google, people are ready to innovate, they are ready to share their innovative ideas with the staff. And that is why we see Google now coming one of leading companies of the world. And then these humans, if an organization's human beings, they have the capability of converting an adverse situation into an opportunity, then of course the organization has the competitive advantage over other organizations, because their managers, their human resource could not convert this adverse situation into an opportunity, but your human resource could do so. Then of course you have the advantage. Then these human beings, they bring the changes in the organizational design if required. Other resources cannot do it. But if the design of the change in the organization is good enough, then the human beings bring the competitive advantage for the organization. And they are effective change agent, as we have discussed in the previous point also, that this change that they bring to the organization, it is at times difficult to bring changes. People are resistant to changes, right? So you have to act as an agent. Of course, the HR manager always has to act as a change agent who has to be effective in his approach, his or her, right? So now we are in a position to understand what is human resource management. We have discussed why human is a resource. We have also discussed why is this resource so unique. And we also tried to understand the importance of this human resource, right? Now, the problem is, what is human resource management? This is just a sum of the three terms. No, we have a real whole for this term also. Human resource management. Let's see what it says. Firstly, we saw that it is managing people in the organization, but we have to go with the definitions given by the scholars. So the first scholar that I'm taking is Stephen P. Robbins and David A. DiCenzo. They give us a beautiful definition. They say, human resource management is a process, and in this process, there are only 4 functions. First is acquisition. Acquire people for the organization. That means bring people to the organization. Second function is development. Once the people are inside your organization, now you are supposed to make them develop so that they start working better for the organization. Then he gives third function, that is motivation. Just to make them develop is not enough. They are supposed to be kept motivated during their tenure in the organization. They are supposed to be kept motivated to work more. They are supposed to be kept motivated to increase the productivity of their own and their department. And fourth is maintenance of this resource in the organization. That means you need to retain the people that you have hired for the organization. And all these 4 functions are to be applied on human resources. This is a definition that is given by Stephen P. Robbins. But just understanding one definition perhaps won't be enough. So let us take one more definition. This is given by Michael J. Jusius. And he has done a beautiful job. He says that management functions are to be used in human resource management as it is. And he takes 4 functions: planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. And he says use these functions for the human resource activities. Now what are those activities? These are procuring. Procure people, procure human resource, bring people to the organization again. Development, same as the previous definition. Once people are there in the organization, you have to make them develop. Third is again maintaining You have to retain those people. But there is one more factor, utilizing, which was missing in the previous definition. And that fourth factor, utilizing, makes this definition so important for us to study. Utilizing means that now you have brought the people to the organization, they are developed enough to work for the organization, you are able to retain them also with good compensation packages maybe. Now you are supposed to utilize them. Now the resource has become an asset for you. But how to utilize that resource? That will be in the hands of human resource department. What kind of job is to be allocated to whom? For example, Sachin Tendulkar. He is a very good batsman, but had his father asked him to maybe become a good swimmer, he may not have proved to be a good swimmer or a good sports person or a good athlete, but he is a very good cricketer. So that means whatever task is to be allocated to the person, that should be as per the optimum utilization of this human resource in the organization. And this is to be done in an effective and efficient manner. This is what human resource management is. So I hope the definition of human resource management has become clear to all my students. We took half an hour to understand what is human resource management, right? So rather than saying that it is just managing people in an organization, now we see how to manage these people. That becomes the complete definition of human resource management. Now, what is the nature of this human resource management? We have understood what it means. But what is there in this human resource management? What are the characteristics? What are the features of this human resource management that should be a part of your mini MBA course curriculum? Right? So let's try to deep dive and see what it means. First characteristic, first feature. Human resource management is people oriented. People is there in the term itself, man, human. So it means that human resource management, the process of human resource management deals with people, right? This is its first feature. It is not dealing with machines. It is not dealing with money. Financial management, maybe it deals with money. Your raw materials will be dealt by the production department, but people, they will be dealt by the human resource management. This human resource management is a comprehensive function. Comprehensive function means that the HR manager or the HR executive, they have to comprehend certain things. Yes, they have to. What they have to comprehend is there may be problems with the individuals, right? There may be conflicts between the individuals. They have to understand what kind of problem has occurred in the organization. If a conflict is between the two individuals, the reason has to be comprehended. If it is between the two departments, even that has to be understood well, and then the solution has to be given. Then this human resource management is a pervasive responsibility. What it means? It means that this human resource management responsibility is widespread throughout the organization. It means that if you are a department head, even if you are not an HR manager, you still have the HR responsibilities towards your people. For example, if one member of your department is coming late tomorrow by half an hour, for this you won't go to the HR manager or he won't go to the HR manager. He will inform the immediate department head, and the department head will think if it is possible for him to give this half an hour leave to the employee, then he may take the decision on his or her own. And so what is he doing? He is carrying an HR responsibility for his own department. So this HR function is pervasive, widespread throughout the organization, throughout all the departments of the organization, right? But of course, the consolidated data comes to the human resource department so that it can be used for compensations and benefits management, promotions and demotions, etc. Right? The next feature is that human is the objective of human resource management. Now, what is the difference between people-oriented and human objective? Both of these sound two similar terms, but they are not similar. They are not same at all. Human objective, it means that we are talking about the well-being of the employees. We are dealing with the people, that is true in the first point. But the fourth point, Now we have the human as an objective of our human resource management activities. Now we are working for the welfare of the employees, right? This is another unique characteristic of human resource management. Materials management does not work for the well-being of the material. It saves the material, it protects the materials, it preserves the materials the way it is to be used. But employee well-being is important, even if it is somehow not directly related to the task assigned to him. Even if it is not directly related to his designation, even then employee well-being is important. And Tata is one of the top companies in India that is working on the employee well-being. Tata himself is seen going to those employees who are hurt during the duty time, right? And this is the kind of human objective that human resource management deals with. So the difference is clear now between the 2 points, people-oriented and human objective. Next feature, this human resource management has a staff function to perform. This can be also called advisory function because all the department heads, they look up to human resource executives, human resource managers, not only for their advices, but also for what kind of people will they get for the department manpower needs, what kind of promotions will be there in their department, who will be promoted to what designation, right? And these HR managers, they should advise the staff heads for the same. Then these human resource executives and managers, they have to play the role of an innovator also. Innovation in each and every area of the business is required, but in the human resource management, it is required more and more. Innovations from the human resource managers will bring good policies in the organization, will create a more comfortable work to place for the people in the organization, right? The fifth point said that human resource management performs the staff function. And here in the last point, we see that there is an entirely different responsibility that this human resource department has to carry, that is line responsibility. What does line responsibility means? Now, within my own department, right, a hierarchy can be seen and the orders can be given, the instructions can be given, and the job can be done. So, of course, this is not true for the whole organization, but one HR manager or a number of HR managers in an organization, they have this line responsibility towards their own department. Their own department means towards human resource department. For their human resource department, they carry this responsibility, line responsibility on their shoulders. While for other departments, they carry this advisory or staff responsibility on their shoulders. So these two functions are not different by nature here for the human resource manager. It is just the area, the coverage area that is different for this particular department. Next feature, human resource department has implied authority because it is assumed by all the members of the organization that whatever communication is coming from the human resource department members, that is coming from the top management, and it gives an authority to their messages. It gives an authority to the instructions received from human resource department, and this implied authority makes them a little strong in the organization. Then these human resource departments have to perform a coordinative function. They are supposed to be responsible that there is no conflict situation in the organization. And if there is a conflict, they are supposed to resolve that conflict as soon as possible. Human resource management is also action oriented. What does it mean? Human resource management is not just sitting at the table and preparing some documents. For example, if there is a conflict between two individuals or maybe two departments, they have to take some action. If something goes beyond the ethics of the organization, against the code of conduct of the organization, action has to be taken. So human resource management is always action oriented. And actions are to be taken on the individuals as well as on the groups. what are the groups in an organization? These groups can be different departments. These groups can be different branches. These groups can be different geographical areas, different zones as defined by banking industry also, right? So HR manager or HR department has to work for individuals and for these groups also, so that ultimately this human resource department works for the organization, right? And development oriented. This is also one strong feature of HRM. Whose development? Individuals' development, development of the departments, development of the whole branch, development of the whole zone, and then development of the whole organization. This is the responsibility of human resource department. And that makes this human resource management a very challenging function. Challenging function. You have to deal with the human beings who are dynamic by nature, who are going to behave differently in the same situation. So this challenge human resource managers accept, and they become strong managers in the organization at times. The next feature is that this is a continuous process. It's not that once you trained an employee and now you can sit and relax. No, you have to monitor. You have to evaluate the effect of the training on that particular employee. And then it is not that once he is trained and he is competent enough to work for the organization. You have to keep your eyes open all the time to see the performance of all the employees, and then wherever needed, the training is to be given. This is related to just one function of management, training. Same way, you have to keep your eyes open for all the functions of human resource management, and that makes it a continuous process. This human resource management, this is a science as well as an art. Science because we at times call it human engineering also. But the decision making, that has an element of art. For example, if there is a fight between two individuals, there is a fight especially between two departmental heads, then the intuitions of human resource manager, at times his own skills of resolving the conflict, they are also going to work in this particular situation, and that brings the element of this human resource management being artistic by nature. Because science is based on a rule of thumb. Science is based on certain experiments and expected outcomes. But an art does not have an outcome that is already predicted. We just have a vague idea in an art what is going to happen, right? But this is not trial and error method. Human resource managers, they have to use their intuitions to bring solutions to the problems with the human resources in the organization. They can use both the approaches, scientific as well as artistic approach. Artistic approach makes them good leader, and scientific approach generally makes them good manager. Now there is one thing that is very interesting. People, especially the author G.S. Sudha, whose book I have consulted for the preparation of these slides, he says, the author says, human resource management is a young disciple in the field of management. What does it mean? It means that marketing, production, operations, all these are senior disciples. And HRM, human resource management, is a young disciple. That means it came later as a part of study in the study of management. But somehow I do not agree with the author here, because we see the practices of human resource management even in our ancient India. Ancient Indian books, they have live examples of human resource management. If we talk about Bhagavad Gita, Gita is a live example of human resource management. Krishna, the manager of the battle for the Pandavas, what he did, he tried to motivate one member of the organization, that was Arjuna, when he was quite demotivated. When he said, I don't want to fight with my own relatives. What did he do? He started giving him those logics which made him motivated to go and fight against his own relatives. So we see these live examples of human resource management in 5,000 old texts of India. Then how can we say that human resource management is a young disciple? If you have more interest in the topic, then do send your message in the chat box so that we can have a separate session on ancient management systems of India. Next, this human resource manager, if it just has the knowledge of managing human resource, then that won't be enough, because this is interdisciplinary by nature. What does it mean? He needs to have the knowledge of sociology. He also needs to have the knowledge of anthropology, maybe any kind of social science that he needs. And apart from that, he also has to have the understanding of all the tasks of that particular organization, understanding the tasks of all the organizations of that organization, and that makes it interdisciplinary by nature. Human resource management acts as a nervous system. Now, what is a nervous system? We have nerves in our body, we have brain, and we also have body parts like hands. How are my hands moving right now? The nerves, they are connecting my hands and the brain. Brain is giving instructions and my hands are moving. This is the task of a nervous system in a body, in a human body. Now, in an organization, human resource department does this task. They take the instructions from the employer, from the top management, and then they give these messages to the body parts, means the members of the organization, the departments of the organization, the branches of that organization. So this way the human resource department works as the nervous system. Next is strategic function. When we talk about the activities of human resource management or human resource department, they all have to be in line with the goals of the organization, and that makes it strategic function for the organization. Next new feature that has been added is that human resource management has international view. What does it mean? It means that now we have growing businesses. Now we have businesses that are crossing the border of their own country, and they are going to other countries with their products and services. So there also they need people. At times they need people from their own country to be sent to the foreign country. At times they need to hire people from the foreign country to work for their organization there. So we see that the human resource management needs arise in the international businesses quite differently. And that becomes a new feature of human resource management. And the last one is mutuality between employers and employees. Now what happens here? Since they are working as a nervous system, they are bringing the messages of the employers to the employees, and they are taking the messages of the employees to the employers. So they are playing a dual role. Sorry, they are playing a dual role. What does it mean? It means that for the employers, they are the face of the employees when they are taking the messages of the employees to the employers, right? And at the same time, when they are going to the employees, they are the face of the employer for the employees. This dual role that these human resource managers play, that makes their task very challenging, right? And this way we have understood what kind of features this human resource management has. Now we'll try to understand what are the functions of human resource management. Till now we have seen what is human resource management. We have seen the features, and we have seen the uniqueness of this human resource, right? Now we will see how this human resource management or human resource department actually works in the organizations, right? Let's go to the next slide to understand this. First function is manpower planning. Since we saw that it is dealing with people, so they have to plan for the people in the organization. Now, what do we understand by manpower planning and how it is done? Manpower planning means that the human resource department has to take care of all the activities, all the business activities to be done in an organization, and according to those activities, he or she, that means the human resource manager, will have to plan how many people are required, what kind of people are required. That will be manpower planning, right? We'll see all these things in detail, but right now we are just trying to understand what we will be discussing in next 15-20 minutes. Manpower planning is clear. Then recruitment and selection, calling the people to the organization and selecting the best out of them. Once they are selected, these functions, you can understand them in a sequence in terms of the journey of the organization with the employee, or journey of the employee with the organization. It starts with the manpower planning. When both of them see that they are fit for each other, only then recruitment and selection will happen. After that, they will be made comfortable, that is induction. Once they are taken, they have to be paid also. If you do not pay the employees, they will never be motivated to work at all, right? So compensation and benefits management, then mentoring. Whenever they need your counseling, your mentoring, you're supposed to mentor as an HR manager and retain them in the organization. You also have to plan for their career. You also have to check what kind of performance is being given by them. And if there is a gap, then of course, training and development is your job as an HR manager. Then employees should participate in each and every job given to them, in each and every decision that is related to their job. And they should be able to communicate with everyone related in the organization, because they will be dealing with all the departments of the organization. So communication becomes a prerequisite for their success in the organization. Then next is health and safety and employee well-being. As we have seen that the human objective is first and foremost for the human resource department. So this becomes their task, their function. Then managing relationships. What kind of relationships they have to manage, we'll see. Evaluating the employees. If the employee is good enough, then you are supposed to retain him in the organization. If not, then maybe you need to separate the employee from the organization. After that, human resource accounting, audit and research. For this, of course, you need to collect the data about the employees, and we'll see how it is to be done. And apart from these, any kind of administrative responsibility that is related to human resource department, that also becomes a function. For example, compensation and benefit management, just deciding that this much is to be paid to the employee is not enough. You have to actually pay the salaries. That means you have to make checks. That means you have to transfer the funds to his accounts. Or maybe you have to call him and give cash to him. So these administrative responsibilities of the task of compensation and benefit management, they are also to be taken care of by human resource department. So this is the list of functions of human resource management, and now we'll try to understand them one by one for a particular organization, right? We need to understand all these tasks, and as an HR manager, we need to identify whether they are taking us towards organizational goal. For example, recruitment and selection. If you are recruiting, are you recruiting the kind of people who can help in achieving the goal of the organization? If that is so, only then this is to be called a function of human resource management. If you need MBA, if you need the teachers to teach MBA students, and you start taking arts teachers or maybe science teachers or engineers only who are not, when the business analytics is not a part of the course curriculum of your MBA course, then this means that you are not going to achieve the goal of the organization with the recruitment of an engineer, right? In our day two, tomorrow, we'll discuss more about recruitment and selection and training and development. But right now, we should try to understand it as a general phenomenon here, that whatever task is to be performed by the HR department, it should be in line with the organization's goal, right? And that makes this human resource management a strategic function. First is manpower planning. Now that list should be in your mind. Manpower planning is you forecast a firm's future demand and supply of employees. So this is about employees. You have the inventory of people in your organization. The way you have the inventory of raw material, finished goods in your godowns, the same way you need to check the demand and supply of employees by the different departments and by the organization as a whole. Based on this demand and supply that you have forecasted, you will try to take right people at the right time. And it should be in both the dimensions. Quantifiable, how many people you need, bring those many people. with what qualification you need, that qualification you bring to the organization. And qualitative dimension, this talks about the quality of the people. Maybe you need soft-spoken people. Maybe you need R&D oriented engineers in your organization, right? So you need to check the demand and supply of the employees in the organization first. Then you need to bring the right people at the right time. And for this, you have to have a strategy. How to acquire these people, how to utilize them as a resource, and how to make them develop, improve, and how to preserve, how to maintain them in the organization. All this is a part of manpower planning. Next is recruitment and selection. So employment planning and forecasting has been done in the first step, that is manpower planning. And now you start recruiting. Recruiting means now you start building a pool of candidates, right? And once they are invited and interviewed, then those candidates become employees. The procedure is not this simple. This is a long procedure, and under your mini MBA, we are going to understand this procedure tomorrow. But today, I hope the task is clear to my students, how they are supposed to recruit and select if they are the HR managers. They are supposed to plan for the employment. They are supposed to start with work analysis and decide what kind of people they need quantifiably and quality-wise also. And then they are supposed to invite applications. After that, of course, the whole procedure of selection will take place, and those candidates will become the employees of the organization, right? Once they become the employees of the organization, now once they are in the organization, they are supposed to be made comfortable, that is orientation and induction. This is also named as onboarding. And what happens here? Your one day, or your first day, how was your first day in the college or in the school? You must not have been very comfortable on the very first day in the school or in the college, because there were new faces, new courses, maybe new place, maybe a new city also for some of you, right? So this anxiety, the level of this anxiety is to be brought down in the process of orientation and induction. And how is it to be brought down? Now that is a challenge for the human resource manager, because generally human resource managers or the executives, they are the first person for an employee to meet in the organization, because they are the people responsible for their interviews, and they are the people who are responsible for their induction. So they are these HR departments, they plan the induction in such a way that these freshers or these new employees, they are familiarized with their jobs first. Job means the tasks and responsibilities, the place where they will be sitting or standing or performing their jobs. Then with the co-workers, with their peers, and they are also to be familiarized with their own company, right from the history of the company, founders of the company, present situation of the company, and future plans of the company, so that the employee feels that he is the best fit for this role, and he becomes comfortable and confident on the very first day or during the very first week of his joining. This is the importance of induction for a new employee in the organization. And when we say induction, this can be done by the HR manager himself also in the first level. At the second level, he can be taken to the department head. And at the third level, he can be taken to the immediate superior. And if the organization is very big, then of course the fourth level also exists, where he can be taken to his peers, and they start working with him, they start talking with him, and he becomes comfortable. And all the information about the building of the organization, this should also be given in the very first day of the induction, so that the person knows where he has to sit, where is the washroom, where he has to go for the lunch, and what kind of facilities are available for him in the organization, because this gives him a psychological comfort if this is what he gets on the very first day in the organization. For example, if the organization planned a very good induction program, a very effective induction program, and it took 3 or 4 hours, and after the completion of the program, now the person is looking for a washroom, and it was not even hinted during his introduction to the company where the facilities are. Then he has to guess with the boards around, or maybe the arrows around, or he has to find people with whom he can check for the facilities. This happens in the case of a bad induction. So the challenging function for the human resource manager is that this induction and orientation should take place very smoothly. Then comes compensation management. Compensation. When you are working in an organization, you are not working for free, right? You are expecting some remuneration, something in return. And in our present corporate system, of course, it is in monetary terms. That is called your salary, your wage, right? So wage and salary programs will be designed by the HR manager. And how will they be designed? For this, the job that one particular employee will be doing, that has to be evaluated. For this particular job, how much can we pay? How much should we pay? And how much is the industry paying for this kind of job? Then you get different people. And this is the second challenge now. For the same job which has been evaluated in a particular category, you have different sets of CVs. You have different sets of applicants. For them, as per their qualification, as per their suitability, you have to check what wage and salaries to be offered. This is about monetary terms. You can talk about incentives, you can talk about bonuses. But apart from that, you have to formulate policies for other benefits. These other benefits, benefits in terms of our members of the parliament, or members of the assemblies. What kind of benefits? They have subsidized rates in their canteens. This is a benefit to them. But uh, this is just an example. Otherwise, the organization, they offer benefits in terms of tea and coffee. They offer these benefits in terms of free food for the employees. They offer these benefits in terms of free servants from the organization, free residing place, maybe free cars or free rides. So these benefits, it's not that you can give these benefits to anybody in the organization. There should be a formulated policy that is suitable as per their designation, that is suitable as per their wage and salary, as per the designation assigned to them by the organization. This is how compensation management works in an organization. Then next, this is the most challenging task in the HR department. That is mentoring and maintaining. Mentoring. The individuals who come to the organization, they are generally confused. They are generally frustrated with one thing or the other. Go to any organization, you will find a number of frustrated employees, right? So you need to, as an HR manager or as an HR executive, you will have to keep mentoring them, so that a partnership between the employee and the HR department is established, and they are ready to learn and they are ready to grow also, right? This is what mentoring means. Now, after mentoring, you have made them useful for the organization. Whenever they had a conflict with somebody, you mentored, you controlled the situation. Whenever there was a gap in their performance and the demanded standard, you trained them, you mentored them, you asked them to go for a particular certification course, you asked them to get trained on a particular machine, right? This kind of mentoring you did, and you made that employee a very valuable asset for the organization. Now, what will happen if that particular asset, that valuable asset, leaves the organization after 1 or 2 or 3 months? All the hard work that you did is becoming zero now. You spent money on hiring that particular employee. You spent money on mentoring that particular employee. Money means efforts also. Money means time also. You spent a lot on training this particular employee, right? But now if that employee is not with the organization anymore, all that goes into vain. So you need to keep that employee with the organization as long as possible, as long as he or she is useful for the organization. It's not that if he's becoming 75 or 80, you are still keeping him in the organization. Then you need to change the policies. Maybe you need to change the kind of work he's doing, even if you have to keep him in the organization even after the age of 75, right? But if you just lose this employee, that is not good for you. So you need to maintain those employees, you need to retain those employees. And who can mentor? It is not only HR manager who mentors. There are generally senior people to whom he looks up to for this mentoring. So HR managers can assign these duties to the senior people in the organization. Those who are coming to the organization even after their retirement age is over, they can act as a mentor in the organization, right? And these experienced employees, when they give advice and support to the younger employees, they feel very high in the beginning of their career, that they met such a senior person, and this senior person took interest in their career plan. And this becomes a motivating tool for the freshers or for the new employees in the organization who are coming at a junior level, right? Now, we were talking about maintaining, how to retain. The data tells us that 79% of employees who leave the companies, they feel that they were not recognized in this company. That means whatever efforts they made, their efforts were not recognized. See, the number is 79%. That high. That means only 21% people are satisfied with the kind of recognition we give in the organization to the efforts of the employees. So this is an alarming situation for the organization. The corporates have to take some lesson from this data and start working on how they recognize the efforts of an employee in the organization. How to do it? For this, you need to build solid interactions. That means the communication has to be very strong between the employee, between the set of employees and the employee and the employer. If the interactions are not solid, it's very difficult to maintain the resource in the organization. And other mindful practices can also be brought into practice so that emotional well-being is there. See, a line of appreciation is not going to cost you anything as an HR manager or as a senior or as a CEO, but it is going to bring emotional well-being to the employees. It brings psychological safety in the workplace. Yes, whatever I am working, that is being recognized. People are appreciating me, and now I will do my job with more devotion. If this is happening, trust me, you have been able to maintain that employee in the organization. He is a part of those 21% employees who are satisfied with the kind of recognition that is given to them in the organization. And this is going to lower their attrition rate. So that means mentoring helps in maintaining the people in the organization, and human resource management should take the responsibility. But of course, they can take the help of experienced, senior, and good people in the organization. Now, after mentoring comes career planning and management. The person who comes to the organization, he's looking for a growth, right? He's not thinking that if I join as a clerk, I'll go or I'll retire as a clerk only. He's obviously looking for a growth inside the organization. So if the organization has a career plan for the employee, then of course it is going to provide him some career comfort. And the organization not just has to plan this career guidance, it has to be conveyed also to the employees. And some support also is to be given to the employees. For example, if career planning inside the organization demands a 2 years MBA program, then the employee should be exempted from the routine duties for 2 years and should be asked to go to a particular university and complete the MBA degree. And this is what companies do. BARC, this does that. They send their people for advanced courses to IIMs and IITs. So this kind of career guidance and career support to the employees is a part of the career planning task of the human resource management. Not only guidance and support, you have to counsel them. For example, why should I go and spend my 2 years in IIM? I'm very happy here in my organization. I'm working, I'm getting salary, and moreover, I have my family here in this city. Why should I go to a new city for this course? Then, of course, the human resource department or the people assigned by the human resource department as mentors, they have to counsel the employees that this is just a matter of 2 years maybe. After 2 years, you can come back to your family and you can bring more resources, monetary resources to your family. And at times, you also have to assist. For example, the employee says that I cannot pay the fee of this course. Then, of course, the HR department also at times has the responsibility to assist the employees to pay the fee, and later it can be cut from their salaries. And for this, of course, an agreement has to be signed by both, by the employees as well as by the organization, right? And they also, this career planning also contains the element of promotions and demotions. Of course, if you start demoting people, that is not a very good sign. That means the people will not stay in the organization for long. But if you talk to them in a manner that they are comfortable with these transfers and promotions, then of course it is going to give a boost to their career in the organization. This is what Human Resource Department is supposed to do with the task of career planning. I need to change the slide, please. So after we discuss these 1 or 2 slides, you can send your questions in the chat box, right? And at the same time, we'll keep discussing the roles of HR managers. With the tasks assigned to these HR managers, we have seen what kind of role are they going to play in the organization. When it comes to performance appraisal or performance management, they are supposed to develop policies and procedures, and they are supposed to actually evaluate people. There are many techniques available for these performance appraisals. There can be this can be self-performance, self-performance appraisal, this can be 360-degree performance appraisal where you can take the feedback from all the peers, seniors and juniors, and then you decide about their promotions and demotions accordingly. If there is a gap in the performance of the employee and the performance that is expected by the organization, then of course there is a need of training, and you need to design a training program. This training program is to be designed in such a manner that the employee, after receiving this training, becomes an effective resource for the organization. This is what you are supposed to do in training and development. And on day 2, tomorrow, we are going to discuss training and development in much detail, right? Next is employee participation and engagement. This is also the responsibility of Human Resource Department. Because employee participation, what happens here? They are supposed to get involved in the decision making, of course, of their own area. It's not that they start thinking that I'll be responsible for all the kinds of decisions in the organization. Not that way. But of course, for their particular department, for their particular work area, they can take the decisions. And in this process, they feel that now they are enriched with the power of decision making. And of course, they are working with their superiors. That makes them feel that they are participating in the organization. Then health, safety, and employee well-being. You are supposed to take care of the health of the employees in the workplace. That means giving them good, healthy environment and safe equipment to work with. And otherwise also employee well-being is a responsibility of the Human Resource Department. And this promotes employee satisfaction. If an employee feels safe, healthy in an organization, he is not going to leave. And it makes him respect his employer. If the employer is caring towards you, of course, as an employer, your appeal enhances. And you are able to retain not only employees, you are able to retain motivated and productive employees. And next task is managing relationships. Positive and constructive relationships with all the individuals in the organization. then with all the departments in the organization, this is with the HR department, and then industrial relationship, that is employee and employer relationship. This also has to be taken care of by the human resource department, so that employees are engaged, they are loyal in the organization. If you have good relationships with each other, if you have good relationships within the departments, only then the employees will be loyal and more engaged. And having loyal employees is a strength of human resource department. Now your employee is there in the organization, you have motivated him, you have trained him, he's working, he's performing. You are supposed to evaluate. This is different from performance appraisal now. You have to set performance standards. You have to set specific goals also. And for a particular time period, you are supposed to take notes on his performance. And if you feel that you have to criticize, you need to be honest and specific with your criticism. And never try to compare employees. These are the do's and don'ts for the HR managers, in fact. You're not supposed to compare the employees, because each and every employee is a unique personality. And so you should evaluate the performance, not the personality. And have a conversation with that employee especially, whom you think is ranking low in your list of evaluation. The worst situation for HR department. Now the employee is trained, is maintained, but even then the gap is not diminishing. Even then the performance is not up to the mark. So at times you have to separate him from the organization. And that comes to the employee as involuntary separation. Dismissal, retrenchment when you start downsizing. Right sizing is the term that they have used, but actually it happens in downsizing. Retirement is an involuntary separation that comes to everyone in the government jobs. It is a very popular involuntary separation. The person is still ready to work, but but the age does not allow him to work now for the organization. These are involuntary separations, but there are voluntary separations also. Now, what are these voluntary separations? First is when the person resigns, when the employee resigns or wants to quit the organization. That is voluntary separation. Then at times before the retirement age also, people take voluntary retirement. This is known as VRS in India, right? So these are the kinds of separations that can be there in the company. Transfers and promotions, they are temporary separations or separation from just a particular branch or a department or a zone, right? So they are not taken in this particular set of separations. Then the last is human resource accounting. Human resource accounting is when we bring people to the organization, we are putting in some cost. When we are inviting the applications, when we are interviewing them, when we are paying the salary to them, we are incurring some cost. Now, what kind of value is being delivered by the HR department? When I start comparing these two, that becomes HR accounting. For this, I have to conduct HR audit. That means that whatever jobs were assigned, whatever goals were decided by the HR department, have they been met? And is the HR department conducting a research and developing a database of the employees? Because this database is going to be very useful when it comes to HR metrics and analytics. And evaluating the existing HR practices for better functioning after analyzing the database I have, after the HR audit, after the HR accounting activities, you will be in a position to evaluate the HR practices, the present HR practices, and improve them for better functioning of the HR department in the organization. These were the traditional functions, but new HR functions gain competitive edge. This we have already discussed in the beginning, right? But this is a new age HR function. And the strategic function that we have discussed, that is second point, aligning HR activities with the master strategies of the corporate, with the corporate objectives. Then today we are focusing on competency development, not only on skills and qualification. We are focusing on competency, how competent my employee is rather than how qualified my employee is. We are redefining the role of HR managers in terms of not just being managers, in terms of being friends, philosophers, and guides for the employees. And now these HR managers, they are uh, developing methods for alignment between an individual's goal and the organization's goal. They are supposed to define, communicate, and leverage. Leverage what? An organization's strengths, an organization's key capabilities. This is the kind of task that is newly assigned to these HR people. They create, distribute, and support employees and the organization, both, right? And there is one more way of understanding these HR functions, which is generally given by the scholars. They categorize these functions into three parts. First is managerial function, second is operative function. Operative function is generally administrative by nature, and managerial function comes from the functions of management: planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling for the human beings in the organization. That is the managerial function. We have seen the nature of these functions in our discussion of previous 45 minutes. Operative functions. Yes. Operative functions are those administrative functions where you bring the people inside the organization by advertising, by by interviewing them, by training them, by paying the salaries, by retaining them, by motivating them through meetings or through communication, and industrial relations. If your industrial relations are strong, that becomes your operative responsibility, right? Then third is advisory function of management. The members of human resource department, they are supposed to act as advisors to the top management and advisors to the department heads. Apart from this, they are also advisor to the individuals separately, right? But what happens when they are advising to top management? There are certain gaps found, and when they are advising to department heads, even then there are certain gaps, because the advice is for the betterment of the organization and employee both. So when they are advising to the top management, betterment of the organization is good for the top management. They will listen to that, right? But when it comes to the employees, maybe as an HR manager, you will be listened less. You will be listened to less, and at times when you can foresee the upcoming problems and you suggest precautionary measures, that is a part of your advisory function. But managers or department heads, they may face the problem of opposition from you, the department heads who have the line responsibility of their department. They feel that you are opposing or you are interfering in their authority area. And this way, if you are seen as a threat, it is not good for the HR department. You should be seen as a source of help, and this help must be wanted. It's not that they don't need this help and you start offering your help. Then that is not going to be good for the HR department. And this is an intelligent function of the human resource department, because while advising, they have to act as an intelligent authority of the organization. Now we are supposed to discuss the role of HR managers by Henry Mintzberg. He gives us three kinds of roles. These are interpersonal roles, informational roles, and decisional roles, as you can see in the slide. And this is going to be our last slide for today. After this, I'll come to your questions. Now, this interpersonal role, as the name suggests, this is a kind of communication role, right? Where the HR manager can act as a figurehead. That is why I said these HR managers can be very strong in the organization, because they start becoming heads. People unknowingly start accepting them as heads, and they become the leaders, because then they start having followers in the organization, right? So these HR managers, under the interpersonal role, they act as a figurehead, they act as a leader, and they also act as a liaison. For example, if there is a conflict between two departments, they will be the connecting link. If there is a fight between two individuals, they will be the connecting link. If you are going to some other company, even then they can be the connecting link. The second role is informational role. Now, what is this informational rule? Here you have to deal with the information of the organization. You have to deal with the knowledge of the organization. You have to deal with the data of the organization. You have to deal with the secrecy of the organization as an HR manager. First role is of a monitor. What does a monitor do in a class? Have you ever been a monitor in your class? I'm sure many of you must have been, right? And when they were a monitor, they were collecting the information, who's talking in the class, who is sitting improperly in the class. Same way, in the organization, this is the HR manager's role to monitor all the business activities of the organization, performed by the individuals and by the departments. To collect information is the role of the monitor. Second role is disseminator. Now the information has been collected, right? This information has to be distributed, has to be disseminated, has to be given to the people who need it, right? So what information, up to what extent, at what time is to be given to whom? This is HR manager's role as disseminator. Then third role is spokesperson. Who is a spokesperson? Who takes the information out of the organization and gives it to the people. So as an HR manager, you are responsible for the information that is going out of the organization to the people. That makes an HR manager's role of a spokesperson possible in the organization. Next is decisional rule. Now HR manager, how does he take decisions? This is the decisional rule. First is entrepreneur. This HR manager at times is not supposed to act as an employee. He's supposed to act as the owner of the organization, as an entrepreneur, because he's speaking the words of the top management, right? So whatever decisions he takes, they should be entrepreneurial by nature. Second role is of disturbance handler. Disturbances will be there in the organizations, right? So how to handle those disturbances, how to take spontaneous decisions, how to take on-the-spot decisions so that the disturbances can be taken away from the organization and the smooth environment is established in the organization. Third, resource allocator. To take decision about the resource allocation, which resource is to be given to whom, at what time, at what place, in what quantity. This is resource allocator's role of an HR manager. Then negotiator. For example, when the HR manager is allocating the resources to the people, two people at the same, from the same department, they are asking for the different amounts of raw material. And the organization has a limited amount of that raw material, then maybe HR manager has to play the role of a negotiator. This is just an example, but this negotiator's role is inside the organization also, as well as outside the organization also, right? Inside the organization means within the employees, within the departments. Outside the organization, maybe when you are being taken by the organization, you are selected by the organization, negotiation of the salaries. This also happens with the HR manager. So that is his decisional role, right? So this was the content for today.